She got flowers on a Tuesday. I remember because the sky was bone white and quiet, the kind of weather that makes you feel like you're waiting for something to happen. They arrived in one of those tall black map boxes, the kind you see on curated Instagram feeds, sleek, minimal, expensive. She was already home when I walked in, the box open on the kitchen counter like it had always belonged there. I stood in the doorway for a second. The roses were red, but not in a grocery store way. These looked engineered, deep, unreal, like someone had poured color into them with a syringe. She didn't look up when I came in. "They're beautiful," I said. She smiled without turning around. "I know. Who are they from?" She glanced back at me then, her smile widening slightly. "The network," she said. Like that explained anything. I laughed a little, unsure. "What network?" She shrugged. "Just the network. PR stuff." She was in PR. Or said she was. Something about campaign architecture, cross-platform engagement, buzzwords that stacked like fog when she talked about work. I'd stopped asking for specifics months ago. But this was new. Flowers sent to her home, her brushing it off with that too-easy smile. I walked over to the counter, fingertips grazing the lid of the box. There was a card. Not the usual folded kind, but a thick square of cream-colored stock tucked inside a wax envelope. She reached for it, quick, but I was faster. I slid it out. No sender name. Just a single line, handwritten in a script that looked too elegant to be casual. "So you remember who chooses your scent?" I looked up at her. She was watching me now. "What's that supposed to mean?" I asked. She blinked, slow and unbothered. "Probably a joke. You know how these agency types are. Cryptic equals clever. But I didn't choose your scent." Her smile twitched, then flattened. "You overthink everything." She turned back to the stove, stirring something in a pot. The smell was earthy, rich, mushrooms or truffle or some other thing she knew I hated. I stood there holding the card, trying to make it mean something that wouldn't feel like a warning. That night, after she fell asleep, I checked the box again. Tucked beneath the roses, nestled in the foam, was the packing slip. My name wasn't on it. Hers was, printed in clean serif letters. The invoice had been processed through a boutique floral service in Tribeca, the kind that only accepted clients through referral. The last line of the slip caught my eye. Signature, C. Below it, in italics. "So you remember who chooses your scent." And then a code. Not a transaction ID. Not a SKU. Just 4 letters and a number. LMB2. I sat with that for a long time, my thumb tracing the corner of the paper. Something cold pooled in my stomach, the kind of chill that doesn't come from weather, but from knowing you're not imagining things anymore. I didn't sleep. By morning, I had theories. An old client, a campaign stunt, a botched delivery meant for someone else. I kept telling myself that if it was really nothing, she wouldn't have tried to take the card. She would have laughed, teased me. Instead, she went still. She didn't mention the flowers again. By Wednesday, the box had disappeared from the counter. On Friday, a second delivery came. Same packaging. This time, I intercepted it before she got home. I opened the box in the garage with a knife. Not roses this time. Orchids. Fragile, bone white, with blood pink centers like veins. A tiny atomizer sat in the middle. Perfume. I didn't need to open it to know the scent. It was hers. The one she wore when we met. The one she stopped using a year into the marriage, claiming it was too sweet. Tucked inside, another note. "You used to like this." So did I. No signature. But the handwriting was the same. I walked back into the house and waited. When she came in, she paused in the foyer, noticing something different in the air. Her eyes tracked to the garage door, then to me. "I thought I'd take out the trash," I said. She hesitated for a breath too long. "Smells like something broke." She didn't ask about the flowers. I didn't bring it up. That weekend, I started checking our bank statements. Nothing out of the ordinary. I searched her laptop, her work emails, Even the Slack channel she left open like a breadcrumb trail. Nothing. Until I looked at her calendar. Every Thursday at 4 p.m., for the past 5 months, she blocked out an hour. Just luck. That's what the event was called. No location. No notes. Just luck. She'd never mentioned a client by that name. No podcast, no launch, no influencer strategy. Just an hour, every week, hidden in plain sight. And every week, she came home quiet. Not happy, not sad. Just smoothed over, like something had been cleared out of her. I opened her closet that night while she was in the shower. It was cleaner than I remembered. Bare hangers, color-coded dresses, rows of heels she hadn't worn in months. Tucked in the back was a box. Not a flower box. A shoe box. Inside, slips of paper. Printed messages, clipped ends. The kind you'd find with high-end deliveries. Folded neatly. Every card signed with a different letter. C, M, J. Sometimes just a symbol. Sometimes nothing at all. I didn't take them out. I didn't need to. That was the moment I knew I was losing her. Not in the abstract way people talk about emotional drift or intimacy erosion. No. I mean literally. Someone else was inside her life, setting appointments in her calendar, choosing her scent, sending her love letters in disguise. And she was letting them. It started bothering me in places I couldn't explain. Not jealousy. Not suspicion. Something older than that. Something like being erased. I watched her differently now. The way her hand paused when she scrolled through her phone. How she'd check the hall mirror before answering a call. Her perfume lingered longer than before, too, like she was using more of it, but not for me. Thursday came. At 4:13 p.m., she texted. Running late. Don't wait for me. It wasn't strange on the surface. She said that a lot, but it was the timestamp that stuck. I sat in the kitchen with my laptop open, pretending to work while the house ticked quietly toward dark. The idea of just luck gnawed at me. She had tagged it to 5 months of Thursdays, every single one. Before that, it didn't exist. I opened her browser history. She was careful, cleared everything recent, but a cached preview slipped through. Luxury scent personalization concierge exclusive access. I clicked, but the site was gone. The link redirected to a 404. The preview still showed the name. LMB2, just luck. I didn't sleep again. The next morning, I called the flower boutique listed on the invoice. Gave them her name. Asked if there was an account. The girl on the phone hesitated. I'm sorry, sir. That client is listed under a confidential referral program. I kept my voice even. Can you tell me who placed the last 2 orders? She hesitated again. Then, sir, both invoices came from an encrypted profile tagged LMB2. That's all I can tell you. I tried to sound confused, not threatening. Do you know what that stands for? She paused. We think it's code. For a scent profile. I hung up without saying thank you. That night, I asked her again. Over dinner. Candlelight. Her wine glass tilted toward the flame just enough to show a tremor in her fingers. Did you like the second delivery? She didn't look up. What second? The orchids. With the perfume. A beet. She cut her steak into a smaller piece. Oh. I assumed those were from the same campaign as the first. Still the network. Same message. She shrugged, chewing carefully. Did it remind you of anything? She looked up at that. Not angry. Just still. Like she was letting the question land and decide for her whether I already knew. Not really, she said. I smiled. A slow one. It reminded me of when we met. Her knife paused. You said it was too sweet back then. I did. But you wore it anyway. She said nothing. By Monday, I had a new plan. I took the LMB2 code to Reddit, then to perfume forums, then to dark reseller groups. Nothing. Until someone messaged me on a closed scent collectors forum. An anonymous user named Vincent LMB. LMB2. That's not a code for a perfume. It's a client ID. I waited. They only assign those if you're part of their bespoke immersion service. I asked what that meant. It's not about selling perfume. It's about controlling scent associations. They train your partner to crave what you create. One profile per client. One subject. One subject. My chest went still. Who runs it? I typed. Vincent went quiet. When he finally responded, the message was simple. There's no contact page. If she's receiving boxes, she's not the customer. She's the subject. I stared at the screen for a long time. Somewhere in the house, water was running. She was in the shower, singing softly under her breath. She'd never sung in front of me before. Not once. That night, I followed her phone. She had location sharing on with a friend named Jules. I'd never met Jules. Never heard her name out loud. The icon was hidden in the settings, but her phone synced across our devices, something she probably forgot. It pinged a location near Canal Street. Thursday, 3:57 p.m. Just luck. I sat in the car for an hour watching the building. It was nothing. A black door between a closed gallery and a juice bar. No signage. No deliveries. Just a dark glass entrance with a silver call box. At 4:12 p.m., she arrived. She was wearing the coat I bought her 2 years ago for our anniversary. The one she said felt too formal. Her hair was curled the way she used to wear it when we were first dating, and she was smiling soft, inward, like she was remembering someone or becoming someone. She keyed a code into the call box. The door clicked. She disappeared inside. I didn't follow. Not yet. I needed to see more. An hour later, she came out alone. But she didn't come home. She walked 4 blocks west, past a flower stall, turned left on Green Street, and entered a nondescript brownstone. She stayed there for 2 hours. When she finally came home, her perfume reached me before she did. Not the new one. The old one. The one she said she threw out. I didn't say anything. I just watched her move around the kitchen, graceful, efficient, rehearsed. She leaned in to kiss my cheek like always, and I let her. But something in me stiffened. She smelled like someone else's memory of her. Someone who had built her in scent, piece by piece, over months. And she had let them. In the middle of the night, I slipped into the bathroom. Her coat was still hung over the door. I reached into the pocket and pulled out a folded card. Creamstock. Wax-sealed envelope. No message inside this time. Just a scent strip, drenched in the perfume. On the back, a single word in handwriting I now recognized. Soon. There's a moment when suspicion hardens into belief. For me, it happened in the shower. The water ran too cold. The tile smelled different. Her conditioner sat turned inward on the shelf, the label facing the wall like it didn't want to be recognized. I picked it up and opened the lid. The scent hit me, jasmine, bergamot, something woody at the base. Not hers. Not the one I knew. Not the one in the box. But familiar. Like I'd smelled it once on a stranger passing by, and now that stranger had moved into my house and started answering to my wife's name. I spent the rest of that Saturday building a map. On paper. I didn't trust digital. A butcher sheet pinned to the corkboard in my office. Lines scrawled in red marker. Thursdays, just luck, for PM, Canal Street. Deliveries, 2. Code, LMB2. Messages, sent, signature, memory. Name on boutique account, confidential. I added arrows. One for the brownstone on green. One for the unknown signature C. And one looping back to the first note. So you remember who chooses your scent. The problem was, I didn't know who that was. But I knew where to start. Monday morning, I drove to Canal. I wore plain clothes and a baseball cap. The kind of outfit people forget 5 minutes later. At 9 a.m., the building's door buzzed open for a delivery guy. I followed him inside. No front desk. No signage. Just a narrow hall with muted lighting and 6 identical black doors. A gold plaque on one of them read, LMB2 Private Immersion. I knocked. Nothing. I knocked again, louder. Still nothing. I stepped back, hand already moving toward the knob, when the door beside it opened instead. A woman stepped out. Early 30s. Red lipstick. Dark bob. She looked at me, then at the door I'd been about to try. "You're early," she said. I blinked. "Sorry, You're here for the compatibility assessment, right?" Her smile was professional. Controlled. "Come in." I followed her in without speaking. The room smelled like fresh cedar and something sweet beneath it. A long white couch, a metal table, a display of glass vials arranged like a constellation. She gestured toward the couch. "You're LMB3, correct?" I didn't answer. She didn't seem to care. She picked up a tablet and began swiping. "You were referred by the previous client. Same subject. We don't usually allow that, but you've been grandfathered in." I sat slowly. "Previous client?" She smiled, this time with teeth. "The original LMB2. I swallowed. "Do I get a name?" Her eyes flicked up. "That's not how this works." She walked to the display and removed a vial. "This is her base imprint. Scent anchors are embedded here. We build on top of this, layer by layer, to suit your preferences." I stood. "Who is she?" The woman's smile vanished. "Mister." I didn't answer. She set the vial down. "You're not LMB3, are you?" Silence. I took a step forward. "Who is the original? Who is C?" She moved toward the door. "This was a mistake. You need to leave." I followed her, but she blocked the exit. "We're a sin immersion consultancy. We're not responsible for how clients use their influence. If you have a problem with someone in your life, I suggest you speak to them." "I am," I said. She looked me over. For a moment, something passed in her eyes. Recognition, maybe. Or regret. "You're the husband." My stomach turned. "She didn't know," I said quietly. "She didn't know you were manipulating her." But the woman just tilted her head. She signed the agreement herself. Consent is part of the process. I stepped back. "What agreement?" She thought it was a mood study. A scent sensitivity trial. We blurred the full language, common practice. She wanted a reset. She told us she didn't want to be who he made her. The words hit like a slap. Who he made her. The door opened behind me. A man stepped in. Security, probably. Bigger than me. Professional stillness in his shoulders. The woman nodded toward him. "Escort him out." No harm. I didn't resist. I let them walk me out through the dark hallway and into the cold sunlight. I stood on the sidewalk while the door clicked shut behind me. The city moved around me like it didn't care that something had broken. That night, she came home humming again. Same coat. Same perfume. I didn't say anything. Just watched her as she poured wine. Her movements were looser. Her laugh, when she told me about her coworker's tantrum, was brighter. None of it was hers. It was a rehearsed version. A rewritten script. And she had no idea she was performing it. I should have told her then. But something in me held back. I needed to see how far it went. The brownstone on green became my obsession. 3 weeks. I watched her enter it twice. Both times after the sin appointments. Always alone. Always with that same glazed calm behind her eyes. The 4th week, I followed her in. I wore a black jacket. Kept my head low. She entered through the front. I waited 2 minutes. Then knocked. A man opened the door. Mid-40s. Trim beard. Expensive sweater. I pretended to be confused. "Sorry, delivery?" He looked me up and down. Wrong building. I caught a glimpse past his shoulder. A white hallway. A woman's voice laughing softly. The same perfume I'd found in the flower box drifting out into the air. Not hers. His. He shut the door. I stood there for a long time, then walked back to the car and sat in silence. I'd been wrong. This wasn't just emotional manipulation. It wasn't just scent programming. It was a handover. She wasn't being influenced. She was being traded. I couldn't stop seeing the door shut in my face. He hadn't looked surprised. Not angry. Just mildly inconvenienced. Like I'd interrupted a meeting. Or a routine. I started calling him the editor in my notes. Not because I knew his real name. Yet. But because something about him reminded me of the way someone marks up a draft and rewrites the ending. Like that's what he was doing with her. Taking what we'd built and redlining it until it resembled someone else's version of love. I went through her phone that night. I'd never done it before. She was meticulous about locking it. But when you live with someone long enough, you learn their rhythms. 4-digit code. Her grandmother's birth year. The texts were clean. The photos curated. No trace of him. But in the Notes app, buried between old recipes and packing lists, I found something. Just luck, session 3. It was dated 6 weeks ago. It read like a diary entry, except not in her voice. Not fully. The words were fragmented. Robotic, almost. Like someone had dictated them, and she was transcribing. Today he introduced a new layer. Memory scent. First apartment. Green soap. Burnt toast. My laughter sounds real in this memory. I don't want to forget it. My breath caught. That was ours. Our first apartment. The soap I hated. The toaster that always smoked. The day she laughed so hard at something I said, she cried. I scrolled further. He says repetition is key. He says the more I wear the scent, the more it becomes mine again. I think I believe him. He, the editor, he was reaching back. Not just erasing me, but stealing our past. And she was helping him. Willingly. I set the phone down. The silence in the room expanded. I looked at her, sleeping, mouth slightly open, one arm curled above her head like a child's. She looked peaceful, trusting. I wondered if she would still look that way if she knew what was being done to her, or if she knew how easy it had become to let it happen. The next day, I returned to the brownstone. I waited across the street for hours until he emerged. Alone this time. He walked like someone who thought the world bent around him. Tailored jacket, coffee in one hand, phone in the other. I followed him. 3 blocks to a glass office building with tinted windows and no sign. He swiped a keycard. I noted the floor, 18. Then I went home and tore the note off the corkboard. I replaced it with one word. Name. It took 3 days of searching. Eventually, I found the right thread. A private SIN immersion company called LMB2 was registered to a Shell LLC, which led to another, and then another. But the IP address of the original registration pinged from a co-working space in Tribeca. And the billing contact? Caleb M. Banner. C. M. B. The editor. I kept digging. LinkedIn. Nothing useful. No photo. No job title. But a photo surfaced in an old industry blog. He was quoted talking about neurological anchoring through sensory override. Behind him, a blurred backdrop of white walls and perfume vials. Same man. The caption said he'd given a TEDx talk in Zurich. The transcript was online. Scent is not memory. It is authorship. Whoever controls the scent writes the narrative. Emotional intimacy can be restructured with the right olfactory trigger. I read that line a dozen times. Then I printed it and taped it to the wall. Whoever controls the scent writes the narrative. That night, I watched her brush her hair in the mirror. She hummed again, something she only did after coming back from Canal Street. What are you thinking about? I asked. She smiled faintly. Nothing. I nodded. You were humming. Oh, she said, surprised. Was I? I didn't answer. She set the brush down. Her scent drifted toward me, floral, faintly citrus. It had shifted again. You changed it. She looked at me in the mirror. Her eyes flicked away. Just experimenting. With what? Her fingers paused. Just trying to feel more like myself. I nodded again. And who's helping with that? A pause. Barely noticeable. No one. What? No reason, I said. Just curious. She looked at me in the mirror then, really looked. And for a moment, I saw it. The question she was too afraid to ask. I left the room before she could. Thursday came. This time, she didn't go. I watched the clock. 4 p.m. She was in the living room, half reading a book she hadn't touched in months. I said nothing. At 4:15, her phone buzzed. She looked at it, locked the screen without replying. 5 minutes later, she stood. "I'm going for a walk," she said. "Want company?" She paused. "No, I just need air." She left, coatless, no purse. I gave it 30 seconds, then followed. She wasn't walking. She was running. I kept my distance. She moved fast, down 2 blocks, then left, then into a narrow alley near Grand Street. A black SUV idled at the curb. She climbed in without knocking. The car pulled away. I stood in the alley's mouth, breath fogging in the air. I didn't follow. Not yet. I just watched. She hadn't looked back. I went home and pulled the flower box from the closet. The roses had long since dried. I ran my hand along the edge. Underneath the foam, beneath the velvet liner, I found something I hadn't seen before. A small compartment. Inside, a flash drive. No label, just brushed steel and silence. I plugged it in. A single file. A video. I clicked play. Grainy footage. A white room. Her face. Smiling. Laughing. Not at me. At him. He reached forward and sprayed something on her wrist. She inhaled, eyes fluttering closed. His hand brushed her cheek. She didn't flinch. The footage cut to black. Then, her voice. Overlaid on silence. He knows how to see me. Not remember me. See me. That was when I knew. She wasn't being stolen. She was leaving. And she wanted me to watch. The next day, I didn't wait. I drove straight to the office tower on 18th. Same building Caleb had entered that afternoon, the one with tinted glass and no front desk. I wore a suit this time. Polished shoes. Hair combed. People open doors for you when you look like you belong. The elevator opened into silence. No receptionist. Just a single hallway lit in cold white. 3 doors, unmarked. I picked the one straight ahead and knocked twice. Nothing. Then it opened. He stood there in a gray sweater and slacks, holding a small ceramic cup like he'd been waiting for someone, though not me. "Jacob," he said. The voice had something deep. Soft, clean, practiced. Like a radio host who'd memorized your favorite memories. "I never gave you my name." He stepped aside, gesturing for me to enter. "You did. Not to me. But you left it. In the room." The office was quiet, clinical. Minimalist furniture, a wall of scent vials arranged in rows. I recognized the ones I'd seen in the session videos. He poured coffee into a second cup and handed it to me like we were old friends meeting after years of silence. I set it down untouched. "You're rewriting her." He nodded. "No pretense. That's the job. She doesn't know. She knows enough. She consented to the version of herself she wanted. You just weren't part of it." His calm made it worse. My hands twitched against my thighs. I wanted to scream, to shake him. Instead, I asked the one question that had been living in my gut since I found that scent strip. "Why me?" His mouth curved into a slow smile. Not cruel. Almost respectful. "Because she was stuck. And you were the glue." He turned and walked to the window. When a person can't move forward, they try to recreate the moment before they broke. The way she smelled when she was yours, that's where it began. That's what she asked me to undo. She didn't ask for you. She didn't have to. He turned back to me. "You weren't chosen. You were remembered." And she wanted to forget. I stood. "You're manipulating her." "No," he said, his voice soft. "I'm giving her back to herself." I moved toward the desk. "You're a fraud. You write memories in chemicals and call it freedom." He didn't flinch. "I told her to burn the first note. I told her not to bring it home. She didn't listen." "Why?" "Because part of her wanted you to find it." I stared at him. "She left a trail, Jacob. Not because she wanted to come back. but because she needed you to see how far she'd gone. He stepped closer now, his voice lower. You built a life around a version of her that stopped existing years ago. I didn't take her. You lost her. Long before I arrived. I should have hit him. I didn't. I walked out, fists clenched, lungs tight. He didn't follow. He didn't have to. I got home before she did. I sat at the kitchen table, the flower box between us. The original card lay beside it, unfolded. The perfume atomizer on top. The message still there. So you remember who chooses your scent. She walked in just after 7. Stopped cold when she saw the table. Her face stayed neutral, but her hands twitched. I found it, I said. All of it. She didn't sit. I watched the videos. Still nothing. You let him rewrite our life. Now she looked at me. Not with guilt. Not even anger. With pity. I didn't let him, she said. I asked him to. My throat burned. Why? She sat across from me. Her eyes were glassy, distant. Because I couldn't smell anything that was mine anymore. Every room in this house reeked of you. Of who I was when I loved you. Her words landed like bruises. You were never mine, I said quietly. I tried to be. I really did. Then why the games? Why the flowers? She reached for the card. Ran her fingers over the ink. Because I knew you wouldn't believe silence. You needed something to chase. A scent. A signature. A villain. She looked up. So I gave you one. I stared at her. It was never about him, Jacob. You think he changed me. He didn't. He just gave me the tools to stop pretending. She stood. Walked to the kitchen doorway. I didn't leave you for someone else. I left because I couldn't keep being the version of me you kept trying to remember. Then she said it. It wasn't just luck. She didn't sleep at home that night. Didn't come back the next day. Or the one after that. I never saw the black SUV again. Never found another flower box. The scent faded, eventually, replaced by dust and dish soap and nothing. I boxed up her things. Left the envelope on top. Her note. Her scent. Her choice. I kept one of the dried roses. Not for love. For evidence. A reminder. That memory isn't loyalty. It's just repetition. And that the scent I once loved didn't belong to her anymore. Maybe it never had. 3 months later, I couldn't remember what her voice sounded like when she wasn't trying to end something. That was the thing about silence. You think it's peaceful, but when someone leaves you with it, it becomes a kind of noise. It echoes in the places they used to fill. Cabinet doors. Phone vibrations. The sound of perfume in the air before you register the scent. Now there was none of that. Just the hum of the fridge. The click of the heat when it kicks on. And the strange, hollow comfort of knowing that whatever was between us, love, or memory, or something more invasive, was gone. I never contacted her. She didn't contact me. The brownstone went dark a week after she left. No lights. No car. The office suite on 18th shuttered its listing. Caleb Banner disappeared from every record. Even the forums that first mentioned LMB2 were wiped. It was like someone flipped a switch. She didn't move out officially. No dramatic final conversation. Just a silent subtraction. One day her coat was gone from the hook. Her coffee mug vanished from the dish rack. The books she always left half-read on the nightstand. Gone. Even the perfume bottle, her final profile, was missing from the shelf. She took everything that smelled like her with her. Everything except the rose I kept. I didn't keep it out of sentiment. Not anymore. I kept it because it was real. Even dried and brittle, it still carried a trace of something unspoken. It reminded me that all of it happened. That I hadn't imagined the unraveling. That some betrayals don't show up as lipstick stains or hotel receipts. Some wear your cologne back to front, then hand it to someone else like it was always theirs. I got rid of the bed first. That was the hardest part. It still held the indentation of where she slept. Like her absence had a weight all its own. Then I painted the bedroom. Took down the art she picked. Unsubscribed from the scent box she'd secretly kept renewing under a different name. The house stopped smelling like her. That helped. I started walking at night. I'd pass couples on the sidewalk. Some fighting. Some laughing. Some just walking in silence, comfortable. I'd wonder if they'd one day need a man in a glass building to rewire their memories. Or if they'd choose to do it themselves, piece by piece, until the person beside them was just a shape with a familiar scent. I kept a burner phone for a while, just in case she ever called. She didn't. Once, I typed her number in just to see if it still worked. It did, but I didn't press call. Somewhere along the way, that part of me, the part that needed her to explain it, dried up like the rose in the drawer. Preserved, but useless. You can't make someone come back just because you kept the map. Especially when the map was written in chemicals you didn't recognize, by a man you'll never see again. I thought about tracking her down once. Not to confront her. Just to see. See if she still wore the scent. See if she still hummed when she thought no one could hear. But I didn't. Because deep down, I knew the woman I wanted to see didn't exist anymore. She'd been edited. And the version of her I loved, the one who laughed over burnt toast and stole my hoodie when it rained, had chosen to vanish under the careful hand of someone who knew how to rewrite endings. That was her right. And this cold quiet, was mine. In the spring, I took the rose out to the backyard. It was dusk. The kind of sky that looks like an unfinished painting. I dug a hole beneath the tree she once said she wanted to hang lights from but never did. I dropped the rose in, crushed it with my palm, and buried it. Not for closure. Just to make room for the air. The scent rose up briefly when I stood. A final breath of what had been. Sweet, aching, almost familiar. Then it was gone. These days, I keep my own schedule. No shared calendar. No blocked-off Thursday hours with code names I don't understand. I wear a scent I chose for myself. Nothing fancy. Just clean. Honest. Nobody else picked it. And no one else will. Not again. Thanks for watching. If this story pulled you in, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the next confession. Until next time, take care and watch who you trust.